Hey, welcome back, everybody. Um, this is PMI Shorts number 11. Today, Jan and I are joined again by Dave Giachello. We started a time management series several weeks back, and today we're going to be discussing managing interruptions. We were kind of laughing before we hit record. All kinds of things can be said about interruptions, but Dave, I'm going to let you kick it off.
Okay. Well, we talk about we're only productive sometimes 20% of our day at work. And a big part of that chunk of the 80% that we're not productive, besides email and text and et cetera, is the interruptions. And I think we're going to share some ideas as to how to minimize those because, it's just ineffective to have 80% of your day not turn into something that can help you achieve your goal.
Absolutely. Jan, what about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think, we start out our day with the best intentions. And I know I always start my day off with a to-do list. I try to prioritize that to-do list. And if I let those interruptions happen, I get off course very easily.
I know there was a statistic, a study. It's been referenced in a whole lot of different things, but every interruption can take 15 or 20 minutes to kind of get back on task mentally and, physically. So yeah, definitely costly and can definitely throw you off. Let's start jumping into some of the fixes. Dave, I love the first one.
Yeah, don't allow your open door policy, to be abused. And unfortunately, many of us don't have doors anymore. We're sitting out there in cubicles or we're in shared office spaces. So we'll give you some ideas as to how to minimize those interruptions. But I know that as you're a leader, you want people to come to you when they have a challenge or they have a problem. Doesn't mean you can't control it. Doesn't mean we can't put some limits around this supposed open door policy. So we'll try to give you some tips and techniques to try to help you be able to navigate through that open door policy that you've established.
Last time we were together, Dave, you talked about how you personally do email in the morning, right after lunch, at the end of the day. Doesn't interrupt you, if you're not sitting in front of it waiting, to catch one, basically. And what you just mentioned about a lot of us don't have doors. We're in this we're in this environment. And I gotta tell you, my computer feels like playing a video game some days. There's more notifications, signals, things flashing that are asking for my attention that, holy smokes, those are interruptions all by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, we allow that to happen. I mean, I'm still upset that, fax machines came around because we used to at least be able to say it didn't come in today's mail.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, the next one on your list is let people know when you really can't be interrupted.
And that's true. You have to. Okay. We all have certain times that have to be either our quiet times or we have to get something done. So I've seen some really novel ideas and with my clients as I've been in their offices. One person on their door had a facsimile of a traffic light, the red, the yellow, and the green.
Okay.
And when the red was on, it meant don't come into my office unless your life depends upon it or mine does. The yellow she would put up there saying, well, I'm sort of really busy. If it's important, okay. If not, let it wait. And the green was, hey, come on in with any issue, anything you want to talk about. And she made sure that she was green at least 2 hours a day, maybe first thing in the morning or after lunch or at the end of the day. But when the red was up, it just meant, hey, I have to get this done. Don't interrupt me. And that's okay. I think it's great to set limits of, hey, I can't talk to you now, with one exception. If your teenager wants to talk to you, drop everything and listen. Because that opportunity may never come around again.
Absolutely agree. Go ahead, Jen.
Dave, I'd like to, oh, I'm sorry, David. I'd like to go
No.
back and visit the don't allow your open door policy to be abused for a moment.
Sure.
Because I agree, we're working nowadays often without a door. So we're getting these interruptions through email, through text. I find a lot of disruptions during the day through text. If someone emails me and I don't respond in the timely fashion they think I should, then they will text me. So how do you handle that when you've got these interruptions coming from several different directions? And then the other thing I've always had a policy on is not to let someone else's procrastination become my emergency. And I find that happens often.
Sure. That's because you probably pick up and complete the work for them. So you've trained me. I don't have to do my job. Jan will do it. So it's just like, give it to Mikey, he'll eat it. Remember that old commercial?
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of managers don't understand that. They think that they're helping by taking something back and completing it, when really you're just training your employees that there's no deadlines for you, because I'm here till 8, 9 o'clock at night taking care of what you didn't do by 5 o'clock. So yeah, so we have to control ourselves though, because many times you'll say, put it on our desk. Okay, I'll take it. You just got to say, nope, time out. I can't take that right now. You have to complete that. If you have questions about how you can complete it, let me know and we can talk through it. But no, that's your responsibility. I need you to take it to fruition.
Also, kind of managing expectations for your team as the leader. Jan, it's interesting you bring that up about texting, and I brought up all of the notifications. Man, it's fairly simple to turn all that stuff off. And in all seriousness, I don't think enough people realize that those things are mutable. It'd be a great exercise for people to figure out how to turn off notifications, how to turn off the chime for an email, how to learn how to silence their phone. Be amazed at how much they could get done in an hour without all of those interruptions.
Yeah. I mean, the other day, I literally did leave my phone back in the office while I was out for 2 hours, and nobody died. Nothing happened. So when I got back, I could pick up after 2. So you just don't become victim to have to feel like you answer it immediately. I don't even have any instant messaging chimes on mine turned on, because I'm not gonna fall victim to that. So yeah, I have my email and maybe a text, but I've also find that I don't drop everything and respond if it's not an immediate need right then. And so people have sort of learned that, yeah, Dave will always get back to me, but it's not going to be like this instant possibly. But, some people don't have jobs like that. Some people don't have that liberty of being able to manage their interruptions. There are people, clinicians, various different people. But for us in our jobs, we sometimes tend to think that, oh my gosh, it's so important. I always say, is it going to make a difference 100 years from now?
Right.
And if the answer is no, then it's really not that important.
We were at lunch yesterday. There were 3 people at the table next to us. 2 of them had 2 cell phones, just one on top of the other. And I looked at James and I'm like, I don't ever want to be either one of those people.
Right. Yeah, no, yeah.
Oh,
I mean, back when the pagers first come out, we all wanted a pager because we were important, right? Now the 3-year-old has a cell phone, so get over it. We're not important anymore.
That's true.
So what Jan was talking about, that leads us to our next point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Delegation. That's what I'm talking about. Letting an employee give you something back. That's basically, they're delegating it back up to you. And so it's a hard thing for managers to get that discipline of saying, no, Dave, how can I help you accomplish this? What questions do you have? But I need to have you have this completed, And then remember, when you do give me something to do, it's your responsibility to follow up with me before I have a chance to fail. So, if it takes me an hour to do this task, you can't come 5 minutes before and say, hey, Dave, did you get it done? If it takes me an hour to get it done, you got to check an hour ahead of time to say, hey, Dave, are you on track? A lot of managers make the mistake of thinking when I don't accomplish something, it's my mistake. No, if you delegated it and you don't check to make sure they're going to be successful, it's the manager's mistake. And a lot of managers don't want to hear that, but it is their responsibility to make sure I don't fail.
That's an interesting point, though. I'm here to help. I'm not here to do.
Correct.
If I'm here to do, I don't need you.
Right. But we make some people feel important by saying, yeah, give it back to me and I'll do it. You know, and they're all happy to stay till 6, 7, 8, or 9. I always say too that the only people that will remember you work till 9 o'clock every night was your kids.
Is your family. That's right. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. It kind of feeds into the next. Encourage workers to make more decisions for themselves.
Yeah. And how do you do that, Jan? If I come to you with a question, how do you try to get me to get involved?
Well, so first of all, I think you have to give them autonomy. You have to let them know what they can do, what you're going to stand behind them on. If there's certain areas that they don't have autonomy, make that clear also. But I think you have to give them some autonomy. That's why you hired them. You hired them because they could fulfill the expectations of their job.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times we think the only way to get it done is my way. And so if they're not doing it my way, it's wrong. No, there's 100 ways to do things, 1,000 ways. So, you know, we got to relinquish that, oh, it has to be my way, done my way, and allow people, especially for us that are in our generation now, David and I. The younger kids know a hell of a lot more about things than we do. I mean, they're exposed to so much information that, you know, we learned in pieces and they learn through a fire hose right now because it's all available. And so they have, you know, tap into their expertise. They have ways of doing things that I haven't even thought of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm nodding in violent agreement because that has been a very painful lesson for me to learn. I thought for a very long time, this is the way to do it. And simple things like we've talked about over the last couple of conversations about calendaring and task management and things of that nature. I had this certain way of doing something. I taught it to people. I expected them to do the same thing, and it didn't work for them. The job still got done, maybe even better. I finally had to realize that, oh my God, there are 2 ways to do this, or 10, or 100. But that was an incredibly painful lesson for me to learn. But I learned it.
Right. Yeah. I remember about 10 years ago when phones were just coming out, and I got real angry with myself because I parked at the airport and forgot to write down what section I parked in. Okay. And so I looked for my car for about 45 minutes. So I said to my son when I got home, I can't believe it. I didn't have a pen. I didn't write down my section. I couldn't remember it. It took me 45 seconds to find my car. 45 minutes, I said. He said, Dad, why didn't you take a picture? Never dawned on me 15 years ago to take a picture. Now I'm at the point. Now I'm at the point, David, where I take a picture of my room number at the hotel.
Yes. I had the same experience. My son had gotten a ticket. He's in his 30s. He was 16. He got a ticket and he was supposed to take defensive driving. And I literally was like on him to get that class done. And I knew he had been at this baseball tournament all weekend. So, man, I was prepped and ready. He walked through the door like, hey, did you finish up that defensive driving? He's like, yeah. And I was like, man, I got him. There's no way he's been at the baseball tournament all weekend. I'm like, how in the world did you get that done? He held up his phone. He's like, Dad, I did it while I was sitting there watching the game. And I'm like, in my mind, you got to be sitting down stationary in front of a desk. You know, he was at a baseball game and was able to do it on his phone. And I thought, man, this is a brave new world, but different strokes.
That's right. So we have to give people, like Jan said, the freedom to be successful.
Yeah, and I think what I'm hearing through this conversation is allowing, regardless what generation you are, allowing technology to work for you instead
Yes.
of, allow the pictures to take a picture of the parking lot or whatever it might be, but really embracing technology will help us to save that time and also eliminate some of those interruptions.
It's okay for the phone to replace my memory. It works a lot better. And in the old adage of old dogs, new tricks, I'm figuring out who the old dog is.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So Dave, the next one you've got here on the list, you're going to have to help me with putting a curb on venting time.
Yeah. There are some people that just come in and just want to scream and yell and complain about either their coworkers or their boss or whatever. If we allow it to go on endlessly, then they'll know, hey, this is a spot I can go to whenever I want to dump, because somebody else already probably told them to go away or I'm busy. So don't allow yourself to be that one to say, hey, go talk to Dave. He'll listen to anybody about anything at any time. So that's why I have the next one, which is arrange your office strategically.
Right.
You want to make sure that your office, if you do have one, that you're never blocked from getting out the door. Because what I do find is that people will come in and try to plop. A lot of times when I had an office back when I was still working inside a company, I didn't even have chairs in my office except mine, and that just sent a message. You're not coming in and sitting down and talking to Dave for a while. If you want to come in and stand and talk to Dave, that's great. But a lot of people say, oh, I want to make my office look fancy. Get rid of the chairs. Don't give them the opportunity to sit anywhere.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's why arrange it strategically. Maybe you have chairs if you need to, but I never did. So we did that. So, and then the other thing it leads into is stand up when unannounced visitors come. If somebody comes in and I know, oh, here comes Dave again. He's just going to dump or he's just going to moan. I would stand up immediately and they would talk to me for 30 seconds. And then I use the best line that works for everybody. I have to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. And so when I stood up, people eventually started saying, you got to go to the bathroom, don't you? But they realized that, you're not sitting here for 5 minutes moaning on and on about something. So, I always would stand. Anytime someone come in the office, I would stand immediately, because that automatically puts this is a timeline on this conversation that we're having.
Right. That is good. That's good. So the last one you've got is learn to dismiss irrelevant interruptions.
You brought it up before, David. Dinging of your instant messages.
Right.
To me, I think that's an irrelevant interruption. So I just keep the instant messenger shut down for the day, and maybe look at it in the evening. But people started realizing that he doesn't answer his instant messages. So, they find other ways to either drop me an email or to send a text or something of that nature. But, we too many times will get caught up in these chains. And that's the same thing like when we do email, don't put 27 carbon copies on it. Don't interrupt Jan with some kind of email chain if it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Many times when I get those email chains, I just respond to the sender. I don't even send it out.
Right.
If I know it's something, it isn't going to help the conversation or help the group, but I want to at least acknowledge that someone sent me something and I read it, then it's just going back to the sender. But, these long conversations, I think, are sometimes irrelevant interruptions that we go down the rabbit hole with, and it just eats up so much time.
You said it earlier, and you said it in our previous conversation about, we all talked about managing time, and it's really about managing ourselves. One of the things that, Jan, it makes me think about as being a manager and leading a team, it makes me think about it's training a team and training an environment for, again, managing expectations. It's like people that interact with Dave, if they've interacted with him for any amount of time, they kind of know his routine. I think it's important to establish those routines. I guess when you're interacting with new people or you bring a new person onto the team, that's where some of this gets a little bit wonky. But if all of those policies and procedures and routines are established, it's probably easier for that person to fit in to a new environment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also the manager or the leader, whoever, anybody really, they need to communicate those expectations. So, going back just briefly to the venting time, as a manager for many, many, many years, I often had employees come in wanting to vent. And my procedure there was I would let them state their complaint and then we would move on from that. But I always left them with, let me know when you have a solution, or let me know when you have a solution for us to discuss, rather than to take up 20, 30, 45 minutes of my time complaining just for the sake of complaining. And often when I said that, their response was, well, it's not really that big of a deal. So if it's not that big of a deal, why have you come in to vent for that long? So I would just let them state their complaint and then move on.
Good. That's great. That's great. Ask them for a solution to it. And then some of them even probably stopped coming because they said, oh, geez, Jan's going to ask me, what's the solution?
Exactly.
Let me go find somebody else I can just vent to.
That's right. That's funny because I was thinking the same thing. All you have to do is do that a couple of times. People stop coming because if they really just wanted to complain, they know you're not the person to do it with.
Yeah, they'll stop coming for needless complaints or needless venting.
Right.
But I think it's also established that you are open when they have a valid complaint.
Right. That's good. I like that.
We talked about this last time, Jan, with Katie, I think. We talked about the comment section. I would love to hear from our audience and people. How are you handling some of these things? How do you handle interruptions? Do you agree or disagree with some of the things that we've said? When we put these PMI shorts in place, part of it was to make it a way of communicating with our audience and trying to figure out, what do you want to see more of? What would you like us to do next? Dave is committed to be a part of these and kind of, to do a series of things around time management and along the lines of these issues. So we'd love to do more of them. Would love to hear from you, what you would like to see. What are the trials and tribulations that you're dealing with in your office or in your setting? And what I'd love to hear about is how people are dealing with this that are in this hybrid or remote environment.
That's true. But the other thing, too, that we keep reading about, David and Jan, is that next year, supposedly, we're all going back in the office in a lot of different companies.
Mm-hmm.
JP Morgan was just
Morgan, Amazon, the whole thing. Now, I think part of that is they're hoping that there's a lot of attrition so that they don't have to lay off and downsize. Seriously,
I agree.
That's part of it. But it's going to be almost like a new learning experience to spend time with people after 3 years.
Right.
In person, I mean.
That's right. We're all going to have to go back to the kindergarten class.
Exactly.
So those 5 things we learned in kindergarten, we're going to have to relearn them to be able to work in the new world.
Pull Richard Carlson's book off your shelf. Everything I learned in kindergarten.
That's right. Everything I needed to learn, I
learned in kindergarten. Yeah. Get that
exactly
off the shelf again.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's the time we've got for today. So, Dave, once again, I appreciate you being a part of this. Jan, this was fantastic. This is good stuff. We just need to keep it going.
All right. Thanks.
All right.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good
evening.